Hey guys, what's going on? True Strength here, and today we're going to be doing a Legion pre-patch guide for the Shadow Priest. There's been a lot of changes this expansion so far for the Shadow Priest, so let's jump straight into it. First, we'll be starting off with the talents. In the level 15 tier, I play with Fortress of the Mind. This it causes your Mind Flay and Mind Blast to deal 10% more damage and generate 20% more insanity. Level 30 tier, I play with Body and Soul. So every time you put your shield up, you get a 40% speed boost for 3 seconds. This is what I consider the best mobility talent in this tier, as you're going to constantly, especially in BGs and things, you're going to be constantly putting up your shield. So, of course, adding in a speed boost is going to be super easy and really nice. In the level 45 tier, you can bounce between Mind Bomb and Psychic Voice. What Psychic Voice does is it reduces the cooldown of your Psychic Stream from 1 minute to 30 seconds. And Mind Bomb is you put it on the target, and 2 seconds later it explodes and stuns the original target and every target within 8 yards of it for 2 seconds. So against classes that you're not going to be able to get close to fear in duels when you're fighting other casters such as mages or something like that, Mind Bomb is really nice. Because let's be honest, we're not going to be able to get super close to them where they have so much mobility and their Frost Novas and such. So instead of just losing that CC, we can go with Mind Bomb and make sure to be able to get it up. Of course, if they don't play with Shimmer, they can blink that, but better than nothing. And of course, against warriors, they have multiple ways to get out of fears, so being able to get that 2 second stun on them is really nice. But against any other classers, any other melees, you could play with the fear, as they don't have any other way other than their trinkets to get out of it. So yeah, just bounce between those two, what you see fit. Of course, as of right now, I'm talented into Mind Bomb. In the level 60 tier, I bounce between Void Lord and Reaper of Souls. What Void Lord does, Void Lord. Let's go over here to this really quick. That way I'll be able to explain it a little bit better. So, lingering sanity persists for 8 seconds after you next enter Void form. What happens is when you build up your insanity and you go into Void form and begin to dish out damage, every 1 second you generate 1% haste while you're in Void form until it ends. So let's say you get 20 seconds into Void form, so you have 20 stacks of that haste. So you have 20% haste. The next time you cast Void Form, you go into Void Form, you lose that haste and you begin to generate it again throughout your next Void Form. With this talent, as soon as you get done, you have your stacks of haste, and the next time you enter Void Form, you will keep that haste for 8 seconds. After that 8 seconds, it goes away, and you will begin to generate that again throughout your Void Form. The reason I like playing with this talent is whenever I first hit into Void Form, I kind of see it as burst because it does increase your damage by 20%. So I like having that haste with it for the first few seconds of going into Void Form. That way I dish out as much instant damage as possible with my Void Form. And of course, you will generate some of that haste back as you go on. So I really like this talent. You could also play with Reaper of Souls. What this does is it makes your Shadow Ward Death castable at 35% health and always generates insanity as though it killed the target. So Shadow Ward Death generates 30 insanity whenever the target dies. So even if you don't kill the target with this talent, it's going to generate that 30 insanity, and it has 2 charges. So essentially, let's say you use both charges and don't kill the target, you're already at 60 insanity. And if you're playing with Legacy of the Void down here, you will be just within 10 insanity of being able to go back into Void form and have that huge damage boost. So yeah, you can bounce between these two, but me personally, I enjoy Void Lord. In the level 75 tier, I bounce between this talent. I ain't going to try to butcher it, but I'm just going to call it Sand. I bounce between Sand and Shadowy Insight. In a BG environment where you're going to be able to multi-dot and get out a bunch of Shadow Ward Pains, I like playing with Shadowy Insight. Pretty much what this does is your Shadow Ward Pain has a chance to proc your Mind Blast. If it's on cooldown, it'll bring it off cooldown and make it an instant cast. So having out a bunch of Shadow Ward Pains, you can proc this very often, do a ton of damage, and generate a lot of insanity through your Mind Blast. The Sand talent, it increases your Vampiric Touch damage by 20%, and also increases the healing of your Vampiric Embrace by 20%. The Vampiric Embrace is not a big deal, especially when I'm looking at a single target fight, such as duels and things like that, especially where it increases the damage of your Vampiric Touch by 20%. And as you know, we're going to always have our Vampiric Touch and our Shadow Word Pain on the target. Through my testing, Sand done a lot better than Shadowy Insight on single target, especially in duels and things, as your Shadow Word Pain just has a small chance, and of course if you're able to spread that to multiple targets, that chance goes up because of course it's ticking on multiple targets compared to it just ticking on one target. You could just choose this talent and have the 20% increased damage to Vampiric Touch. In the level 90 tier, I play with Mindbender. Mindbender without this talent has a 3-minute cooldown, as somewhat of an offensive cooldown. But with this talent, it decreases it down to 1 minute. It's great to start fights off with this, as it does generate 4 insanity each time it attacks, so you're going to be generating that insanity up because you want to get in void form as quickly as possible. And it also does a decent amount of damage. You could also play with Power Infusion for fun, just to have that huge burst. You could pop this. Once again, it's another one of those talents you could pop really quick to get that 25% haste. And of course, it increases your insanity generation by 25%. So if you pop this at the beginning of a fight, you're going to be able to get into void form super quick, and of course you're going to be doing tons of damage through your other abilities as well because of the haste increase. Once again, it's a great offensive cooldown, but it is a 2-minute cooldown compared to where Mindbender is just a 1-minute cooldown, does a decent amount of damage, and also generates a ton of insanity for you, so I really like Mindbender. In the level 100 tier, I play with Legacy of the Void. The reason I play with Legacy of the Void is normally whenever you don't play with Legacy of the Void, you cannot use Void Form until you reach 100 insanity. So you have to wait till you get it all the way up to 100 to use it, compared to when you play with Legacy of the Void, you can use it at 70 or higher. So as soon as you get to 70 insanity, you can go ahead and activate your Void Form, which of course is a cast through, let me find it really quick, Void Eruption. So as soon as you get to 70 insanity, you can use that whenever between the 70 and 100 insanity. Okay guys, for the rotation, our rotation is super simple. It doesn't change well. We wouldn't really call it a rotation as much as I do a priority list, but nonetheless, we're just going to call it a rotation. So pretty much you want to keep your dots up at all times, which include Vampiric Touch and Shadow Word Pain, as they do damage over time and of course generate insanity each time they tick. After that, you want to make sure to prioritize Mind Blast, and of course Mind Flay will be our filler. And this is just through our general rotation until we get into Void Form, which not a lot changes in Void Form either. So if you're playing with the Sand talent in the level 75 tier, you can go ahead and get up your Shadow Word Pain into a Vampiric Touch, then go into your Mind Blast and begin Mind Flaying the target. If you're playing with Shadowy Insight, which causes your Mind Blast to get procs, you're of course going to want to hurry up and put up Shadow Word Pain and go straight into casting Mind Blast. The reason for this is even while you're casting Mind Blast, if you do get a proc from Mind Blast, it will still count. So as soon as that Mind Blast goes off, you'll be able to go into another instant cast Mind Blast. So yeah, anytime you're playing with Shadowy Insight, make sure that you were putting up your Shadow Word Pain first, then going into a Mind Blast, then getting up your Vampiric Touches, Mind Flaying as a filler, and of course if you get procs of Mind Blast, you will prioritize that over everything else. With the Sand talent, of course, you're going to put up your 2 dots first into a Mind Blast and Mind Flay in your filler. Okay guys, time for the second part of the rotation. What we will be focusing on here is Void Form, but anyways, we got to get into Void Form first. So of course with the let me get to the talent really quick and we'll talk about it. But Legacy of the Void, you can activate Void Form at 70 or higher insanity. The way you get into Void Form once you reach that level is you cast Void Eruption. Void Eruption is a 1.78 second cast, and of course it does AoE damage and it sends you into Void Form. One of the big things about Void Form to remember is that for every second that you're in your Void Form, your insanity begins to drain quicker and quicker. So it's important to be able to be spamming damage nonstop in Void Form, that way you stay in Void Form longer. Also another note is during your Void Form, you generate 1% insanity for every second. You generate 1% haste for every second that you're in Void Form. So if you're in Void Form for 20 seconds, you will have a 20% haste buff. And this also lasts for 1 minute after you exit that void form. So of course, be spamming a lot of damage, stay in void form as long as possible. That way you're getting as big as of a haste buff as possible. And of course, after that, the next time you cast void form, the haste buff goes away, unless you play with the talent that we talked about earlier, being Void Lord, in which it will last for 8 seconds into the void form, and then it'll go away, and you can begin to regenerate that haste buff again. But yeah, those are the big things. Just remember that while you're in void form, your insanity is draining super quick, so it's important to be doing a lot of damage. That way you stay in there as long as possible, and of course the haste buff that you get from that. But anyways, for the actual rotation during void form, not a lot changes except for your void eruption will turn into an ability called void bolt. Void bolt, let me go ahead and go to it super quickly. Void bolt right here is on a 4-second cooldown, and of course that will be decreased with haste, so you can get it down to like 3 seconds or so, around that area. And it generates 16 insanity. This is your #1 priority while in void form, as it does a decent amount of damage, generates a lot of insanity, and one of the big things about it is it refreshes the duration of your 2 dots, which are Vampiric Touch and Shadow Ward Pain. So you don't have to worry about recasting those during void form, as it will refresh them. So if you have 2 targets dotted up, you can bounce between those, hit them with Void Bolt, and it will keep the dots on them without you having to refresh them. So yeah, that's the big thing with Void Bolt. You want to make it your #1 priority. After that, it will be Mind Blast, and of course your Mind Flay when those 2 are on cooldown. So yeah, let's jump straight into the rotation really quick and show you guys what it looks like. Okay, guys, give you a quick look at what the rotation looks like. We're gonna get up our Shadow Ward Pain, Vampiric Touch into a Mind Blast, and then while our Mind Blast is on cooldown, of course we're gonna spam our Mind Flay to do a little bit of damage as well as generate some insanity. Then of course when our Mind Blast comes off, we'll hit it, we'll refresh our Shadow Ward Pain, get another Mind Flay in, and then of course you've seen there that it just lit up that we can go into void form, so we'll cast that. Go into void form, we'll get out a Mind Blast, Mind Flay, get out our Void Bolt. Of course we'll go back into a Mind Flay, Void Bolt, Mind Blast, and just remember that the key is to stay in this form as long as possible, so never stop spamming damage. Do it as long as you can. And of course, as you can see, we got up to 17 stacks of haste, and that will linger around for 1 minute. Of course, it only takes maybe somewhere between around 15 seconds to get into void form, and during that period of time, when you enter void form, you're generating that haste, so you want to stay in there as long as possible to get that haste buff, so that while you're out of void form, you have a huge haste buff and you can do a load of damage. But yeah, guys, it's super easy. The rotation, nothing difficult at all. To keep up your 2 dots, Mind Blast and Mind Flay as a filler. Void form, when you enter void form, nothing changes except for Void Bolt becomes your #1 priority. So just focus on that. And this is, of course, just for the pre-patch. When the actual Legion comes out, the rotation there'll be an extra couple of abilities to throw in there, which we'll talk about when the expansion actually launches. So yeah, guys, I appreciate you guys watching. Let me know what you think about the video in the comments below. Maybe if you try something different that works, let me know. But yeah, and also guys, when the actual expansion comes out, I will be doing a complete guide covering the talents again, the honor talent, as well as the artifact weapon. But just for now, for this sake, where we don't have access to the honor talents or the artifact weapon, we just covered the talents, the rotation, and of course, void form. But once again, thank you guys for watching. Peace.